Good evening, welcome to ITV News Anglia.
Coming up on the programme.
Vaccinating ahead of a tough winter, we talk to managers and medical staff at one of our busiest hospitals about how they'll cope with a seasonal spike in demand.
It's important that we are able to look after all the people who come in who are very poorly without putting too much pressure on the rest of our colleagues. So yeah, very important to all get vaccinated.
Also tonight we'll be meeting Olive. The 3-year-old Cocker Spaniel is the latest recruit to Northamptonshire's Fire and Rescue Service.
I think she's really good, she's a lovely little dog, so I think sometimes just having her there will make people be able to feel comfortable to be able to talk about how they're feeling, because it can be difficult sometimes.
And a few tricky details in the weather to get through, but I'll have the forecast for you coming up later in the programme.
Hello from Becky and me, and welcome to the programme.
First tonight, the mounting pressure on our NHS as staff prepare for what's likely to be a busy winter.
Managers at Addenbrooke's Hospital in Cambridge say there's already an extremely high demand across all of its services.
They're expecting the double threat of flu and COVID to make A&E extra busy over the next couple of months. The Trust is building a temporary ward to cope with the increased demand.
Well, our reporter Matthew Hudson has spent the day at the hospital.
For weeks we've been hearing predictions that this coming winter could be the busiest that the NHS has ever faced. So today here at Addenbrooke's they've been showing us their battle plan, if you like, the extra resources, with more staff, more beds and more operations now being carried out than before the pandemic began. But they've also been talking to us about what we can all do to help, the steps we can take to make sure that resources are not overwhelmed in the coming months. Research nurse Dot Chatfield getting her COVID booster at a clinic for staff at Addenbrooke's. Reducing illness among those who work here is a key objective for the hospital as it gears up for what is expected to be perhaps its most gruelling winter ever.
The last two surges that we've had lots of staff off ill, and it does have knock-on effects, and so it's important that we are able to look after all the people who come in who are very poorly without putting too much pressure on the rest of our colleagues. So yeah, very important to all get vaccinated.
At this clinic, staff can receive both their flu shot and their COVID booster injection. If you're in a green line, you're here for flu. If you're in a blue line, then you're here for COVID. And indeed, they can have both inoculations in the same visit. It goes flu in the right arm, COVID in the left. Consultant anaesthetist Lisa Grimes was doing just that today, starting with the flu jab. The clinic could vaccinate all 12,000 staff. The take-up of first COVID shots here was 96%. This is only one weapon in the hospital's armoury as it prepares for the tough months ahead. A new 20-bed ward, T2, which opened in the summer, will help combat so-called bed blocking. It provides places for patients who are medically fit for discharge but need community care. A further 56-bed general unit will open early next year, giving the hospital much-needed extra capacity. In total, 5 new wards with 116 beds will aim to get waiting lists down. The existing ward D8 is used by patients recovering after surgery. Becky Watts has had her second hip replacement. She is also receiving treatment for stage 4 cancer.
My surgeon said to me, you know, you've been so strong and done so well with your treatments and everything else, that actually we want to see you up and doing with your horses and walking your dogs and doing the things you love doing without being in pain.
At the height of the pandemic, this ward was used for COVID cases. Now staff are trying to deal with the huge backlog in elective surgery.
We have theatres working at 100% of pre-COVID numbers, which is very encouraging. We're operating on over 500 elective patients a week at Addenbrooke's Hospital. That doesn't include Papworth. We are working late days, we are working weekends. Our pre-admission services are preparing patients for theatre, but this will take time to run through.
Lisa Grimes gets her COVID booster and is ready to return to work. Over the coming months, the NHS is going to need Lisa and her colleagues, perhaps like never before. Matthew Hudson, ITV News, Addenbrooke's Hospital in Cambridge.
Well, Roland Sinker is the Chief Executive of Cambridge University Hospitals and joins us on the programme. Thanks so much for joining us this evening. Now, of course, it was incredibly tough for NHS staff last winter, and from Matt's report there, we see that you're expecting staff to work even harder this winter. How much busier do you actually expect to be?
We're very busy as the National Health Service and the care sector at the moment, and we do, yes, expect it to get busier as we go into the winter. And there are two reasons for that. The first reason is there are people who need to be looked after, people coming into the emergency department and also people coming in for planned care, for surgical care or for specialist treatment here at Addenbrooke's. But we do have a plan in place to be able to look after those people.
Now, today, a committee of MPs said the government made serious mistakes early in the pandemic. They said that they were too late to lock down and test and trace was chaotic. Now, of course, your staff would have dealt with the brunt of that devastation early in the pandemic. How did it affect them? How did it affect your teams?
If you think about the two waves of the pandemic that we faced here in Cambridge, so really the first half of 2020 and then the first 3 months of this calendar year, I'm enormously impressed and grateful to all of our staff across the health and care system, but also our partners in the university and industry who came together so tremendously to look after patients with COVID-19, but also patients without COVID-19. And that has been challenging for staff, and it remains challenging now. And what we have to do now is look forward to the plan for this winter and then subsequent years.
As you said, it is going to be a tough winter. What can we do to relieve the pressure on your staff and staff across the NHS?
What we're doing in the NHS is three things. The first thing we're doing is looking after our staff. So that's about vaccination for flu and COVID, and it's about new recruits coming in to work in the hospital and in the health and care system. Secondly, it's about making additional beds, additional capacity available. And thirdly, for us, it's about getting the basics right around things like infection control, so wearing masks and social distancing. My plea to our terrific community who have worked so well with us over the course of the last 18 months and before that is please access 111 first, who will be able to direct you to the most appropriate place for care. And then secondly, that flu vaccination, and then COVID vaccination and any booster jabs for COVID are absolutely key to keeping staff, our population safe and well, and the services here at Addenbrooke's and across the NHS working well.
Roland Sinker, thank you very much for joining us on the programme.
Thank you.
In other news, police in Bedfordshire say they're still trying to piece together what caused the crash that killed 4 people on the A5. The bodies, which haven't yet been identified, were found in a burned-out car close to the Flying Fox roundabout near Leighton Buzzard. Police say the investigation is highly complex. Nearby roads remain closed while experts work at the scene.
A new telephone helpline is being launched in Northamptonshire for people who are affected by or witness hate crime. People are being encouraged to use the Stop Hate UK line to report incidents and get support. Northamptonshire Police say it's hoped the service will bring resolution to those who've been victimised.
A senior coroner has said police restraint training is still dangerously inadequate 8 years after Leon Briggs' death in Bedfordshire exposed the issue. The father of 2 died in 2013 after being restrained face down by officers. In her report, Coroner Emma Whitting said more people could die due to insufficient national guidance for emergency services.
Newmarket's Grand National winning jockey Bob Champion is to receive an honour from the Princess Royal. He founded the Bob Champion Cancer Trust and will receive a CBE in recognition of his charity work at a ceremony at Windsor Castle.
In Speedway, Peterborough Panthers are just one strong performance away from claiming their first title in 15 years. But the Panthers are likely to be without Hans Andersen for Thursday's Premiership Grand Final, second leg with Bellevue. The Dane crashed heavily during last night's first leg meeting in Manchester. Peterborough have a 2-point deficit after losing 46-44. Now, Northamptonshire Fire and Rescue Service has recruited a 4-legged friend to help staff deal with stress and trauma. 3-year-old Cocker Spaniel Olive is the country's first well-being dog to support firefighters after completing the Oscar Kilo 9, otherwise known as OK9 training programme.
She hasn't been in the job long, but she's already very popular, as Liz Summers reports.
It's a warm welcome for Olive, the newest recruit for Northamptonshire Fire and Rescue Service. She's joining the team as a wellbeing and trauma support dog after a pretty rough start in life.
She was seized by the police in another part of the country under the Animal Welfare Act from a puppy farm where she was kept in not the best of conditions. I met her and knew immediately that she was the right dog to carry out this role. Having her around to create that open environment to talk about well-being and mental health issues.
Olive is the country's first wellbeing dog to support firefighters after completing the police's national Oscar Kilo 9 training programme. The 3-year-old Cocker Spaniel has been taught to recognise stress and anxiety and comfort colleagues.
Yeah, it's a great little dog. Yeah, she comes up to you and makes you feel happy and stuff. So yeah, it's really good.
She's a lovely little dog. So I think sometimes just having her there will make people be able to feel comfortable to be able to talk about how they're feeling, because it can be difficult sometimes.
Mark's a big believer in the so-called healing power of fur. He's got high hopes for Olive, who's already become centre of attention.
She probably will get thoroughly spoiled. She already is. She is quite a diva. I'm hoping it's not all going to go to her head, but I think it probably might.
It may well do, but she doesn't need diamonds and pearls. She's quite happy to be paid in cuddles. Liz Summers, ITV News.
Olive stands up for cuddles.
That is one pampered pooch, isn't it, as well? She's, well, very popular and doing a wonderful job as well. And the OK9.
We should have one here, shouldn't we?
Well, maybe we should. My dog jumps up for a cuddle like that. Does yours?
Yes, sometimes. We should bring them in. Have a dog day. Right, shorter programme tonight because of the football, so it's time for the weather. Here's Ash.
Well, we've been talking about high pressure being in charge of the weather, but sometimes high pressure can get a little bit complicated. So we normally associate high pressure with settled conditions, but actually we've had these weather fronts just running around the periphery of the high. So as it runs into that high pressure, it starts to run out of a little bit of steam, but at this time of year, it can make the forecast a little bit messy, which is how we've seen that cloud today. And for some of us, a few showers, and still a tricky few days of weather to come, but here's the full details of the forecast.
Greater Anglia sponsors ITV Anglia Weather.
Yes, well, it has certainly clouded over the last few hours. There's been some showers around as well, but this morning a stunning sunrise, and there was some blue skies around today, some bright and sunny spells, but the last few hours have seen some showers pushing through. Now, as we head through the next few hours, they are going to continue for a time, eventually though turning dry overnight. And out to the east, we have got clearer skies here, so it's going to be quite chilly first thing tomorrow morning. The temperature's dropping underneath those clear skies. Temperatures falling anywhere from around 8 to 10 degrees Celsius, but easily in more rural spots it could drop down to around 6 or 7 degrees, so a touch chilly first thing tomorrow morning. Now, we will have some cloud around first thing in the morning, a few pockets of mist and fog as well, but we'll start to see some sunshine during the middle of the day. And then into the afternoon, bright and sunny spells around, perhaps just the odd light shower out to the west, but I think a dry day for all of us, temperature-wise similar to today, highs of 15 degrees, so still holding above average, so above where we'd expect for the time of year. Now, high pressure has been in charge of our weather, but we have had weather fronts trapped underneath the high, which means we've had a lot of cloud trapped. Now, we're still going to have this little ridge of high pressure for the next few days, but underneath that, at times it is going to turn quite cloudy, but where the skies clear overnight, it is going to turn quite chilly with overnight temperatures easily dipping into single digits.
Greater Anglia sponsors ITV Anglia Weather.
Maybe we should bring our dog to work day.
Yes.
I'm sure they get on.
It's tomorrow. There you go.
It's tomorrow.
Enjoy the football if you're watching it.
Take care. Good night.